Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to build a simple but extremely powerful automation that is going to kick off our entire product workflow just with one action. We're going to create a workflow that takes a new product idea submission and automatically sends a clear, structured email to all the managers so everybody knows exactly what to do next without any meetings, Slack pings, or manual follow ups. This is the kind of automation that saves hours every week and creates instant alignment across the team. So, we're going to be using the following. So the workflow is we're going from a new product idea to an email to all of the managers. Why we use it? We use it to instantly notify the right people and trigger downstream work without any meetings. And if there are meetings, then they're necessary ones. They're not ones that are just to communicate information. So common uses for this kind of a workflow are for communicating product ideas, campaign launches, internal requests, approvals, handoffs, or anything that applies to a number of people in your team or organization that can be sent out and get people to start work at one time from one communication. So the workflow acts as a starting trigger for everything that follows: design, planning, marketing, operations, finance, and anything else that needs to be done in a company. So what you can see here is the form that we're going to build. This is called the Passion Sports New Product Idea Form. And it's a form to submit a new product idea to the Passion Sports management team. So what we've got here basically is anyone who submits this, they've already had meetings, they've worked out that they want to create a new product idea, or they want to create a proof of concept very, very quickly using rapid development of the product. And so what they want to do is send out to all of the key people, all of the key managers involved, the idea name, a description of what this new idea is, the category, so this company only makes tracksuits or t-shirts. We want it to go to a specific target audience of either business or consumer. The priority, whether it's low, medium, or high, so that they know what work they need to get on with and how quickly. Any key notes about it, and then attachments, usually some examples of the kind of product that's going to be made, or any schematics or things that are going to help the team. And this will now get sent automatically to all of the managers or all of the teams or people concerned and keep everybody in the loop. So let's get on and build a workflow that's going to take what's in this form and send it in an email. So here we are in the overview section. So the first thing we're going to do is create a workflow. So hit create workflow there on the top. And so the first step is going to be what actually triggers this workflow. And what we want is click first step. And then we want on form submission, because this generates the web forms in N8N. And then we can pass the responses to the workflow or to the email step. So first of all, click on form submission. And so we're not going to have any authentication. In this case, we're going to call it the Passion Sports New Product Idea Form. And then we're going to give it a little description just to say what exactly this form does. So we've said we're going to allow any member of the team to submit a new product idea that can be rapidly turned into a proof of concept or real product. And so now we add the form elements. We're going to add each of the elements that we need to convey the information that the managers need to kick off the process of creating a proof of concept or rapidly create a real product. So first of all, we're going to give it a title. We're going to give it a title of text, and we want it to be required. Then we want a description of what the product is. It's going to be a bit bigger, so let's make it a text area, and that's required. We then want a category for the product, and instead of text, this one's going to be a drop down. So it's going to be a list of different values. We only have products in certain categories. The default value, let's make it t-shirt, and the options you can have are either t-shirt or tracksuit. And in fact, let's make the default tracksuit, because that's what we're most likely going to be using. So let's make life easier for ourselves. That's a required field too. Next, we want to add a target, and that's also going to be a drop-down list. And the target audience, we're going to give it a default value of consumer. And the options will be consumer, you can be a consumer or business. And that is a required field. So you will either decide whether this product is for consumers or for businesses. Next, we want to give the product a priority. And that will again be a drop-down list. We're only going to pick from certain values of high, medium, or low. And that is also required. So it's going to default to medium. Then we'll have another field for some key notes. This is some text in case whoever's submitting this product idea wants to add some notes about the product, things that we should remember. I've made it a text area. It might take a little bit more text than just a simple text box, and there won't be any default values or placeholders. So it's just going to be filled in by whoever submits, and it's a required field. And then the final thing we need is we're going to need some attachments, and these will be images that will explain what the idea for the product is. And for that, we're going to choose file. We're going to allow multiple files in case there are many images of a t-shirt or tracksuit that whoever's submitting wants to show. And we're going to make that a required field too. So thinking about it, keynotes is the only thing we don't want required. So I'm going to uncheck that because there may not be anything more to say about it. And that's that. So once you've done that, there are other things we could set. So there are settings here, but there's nothing here that we need to set for the purpose of this workflow. So I'll leave that and we can cover this at a later date. The other thing to notice is at the top, there's a test URL and a production URL. So these are the links for where we'll go to actually test our form. While we're in test mode and we're just making sure that the workflow works, we'll use the test URL. And when we go live and everybody in the company wants to use it, we'll use this production URL. And that allows us to test in isolation before we go live. So now the only thing to do is the step. And when we do that, it will show us the form where we can actually start running our test. So let's go. There you go. So that seems to have initiated without errors. And this is our form, Passion Sports, new product idea. Allow any member of the team to submit a new product idea that can be rapidly turned into proof of concept or real product. So I'm going to run this test now. So first of all, let's give it a title. Now we're going to create a special tracksuit here. So I'm going to call it, the AI Tracksuit 2026, the description. So it's a tracksuit developed using generative AI and the recommendations we collected from our loyal customers. Category is tracksuit, already picked for us. Target audience is consumer, not business, already picked. Priority, let's say that's high. We want to get that done ASAP. And the keynotes, so we're only giving 2 criteria here, that the tracksuit should be based on audience research and on brand. Apart from that, nothing else. And then we'll give an example of the tracksuit. Happen to have one here. And there it is, that's attached. So let's submit this new product idea. And there you go. So we can see that we got the response. The form is submitted. Your response has been recorded. So if we now go back to N8N, now that we've submitted the form, we can see that there is some output on the output side. So if you remember, there's input and output. The input actually came from the form when we executed it and I submitted, and the output is here. So if we look, we can see that there are various different tabs. We're currently on the binary tab, and this shows that we have attachments, and that's the mannequin file that I uploaded. And then you also got these schema, which essentially, in the same way that in a database, you would have usually different columns or different fields or different bits of information. You can see all the different bits of information that have been submitted: title, description, category, target audience, priority, keynotes, and you can see their details by the side here in gray. And then attachments is a list of all the attachments that we put in, and you can see there's one, the Passion Tracksuit Mannequin. There it tells us the size, when it was submitted, some good information. So you can see in schema form, in a table form, the exact same information, in JSON form. And if you're a developer, you're familiar with JSON form. So this is structured in JSON form, and that is a lightweight way to send information across the internet, which we can cover at a later date. And then, as I said before, the binary form, which basically means we've attached a file of data consisting of data, and that is this Passion Tracksuit Mannequin JPEG. So we've attached an image file, and it's just showing that this was attached as data. So the first part of our workflow is working. The next part is to actually send this information via email to all of the managers. So let's do that. So if we click outside of this window and we go back to the canvas, what we now want to do is, what we've done by running that is we've proven that we can capture all the information from a form, and this line is a connector that will take us to the next node. So what we now have to decide is what we want to do with that information and that data. So we'll click plus, and we can go through here and find the app that we want. So if, for example, we click on Action App, that will show us a whole bunch of apps that can take action on the data that comes out of here. But what I like to do, because I know exactly what I need, I always like to search for it. So even from this stage, I'm just going to search for Outlook. So imagining you had an Outlook account and you wanted to send it that way, you can just search for Outlook, choose Microsoft Outlook. If you've got a Gmail account and you want to send it that way, simply type in Gmail. So I'll stick with Outlook. There it is. And what you want to do is click on, first of all, click on Outlook, and it will show you all the different actions you can do with Outlook. So let's have a look through these. You can create a calendar, create a contact, but the one we want is to send a message. So now we go to message, we look through message actions and click send a message. And that has now added the message node to the canvas. So if we go back to the canvas, you'll see now there's a message node there, and it just opened the window for us. So if we want to go back to that window, we just double click. And we can see now on the left is input. You can see this has the very that we showed. So it shows what data is going in. And this is what I showed you earlier in this form. And also it has a binary there. And on the right is output. And there's nothing there yet because we haven't executed this step yet. So now the first thing to do is it says credential to connect with. In other words, this is logging in to Outlook to the account that you're going to use. I've already got an account, but what you'll do is you'll go in, create a new credential, and I chose OAuth. So if you choose that, then that will allow you to log into, you can go to connect my account. It will then allow you to sign in, and you can close that, come back and just choose the right account. So now you can see I've got 2 accounts here, but I'm just going to keep with what I tried and tested. So the resource we want to send is message. So that's cool. We'll leave it with that. The operation is send, and this is picked automatically because we chose a send message action. So now here in the to field, we'll pick who we want to send it to. To begin with, let's just try one email, and then we can add more emails afterwards. So that's our first email address that we're going to send it to. The subject, let's call that. So we're going to head up the subject with new product idea. And then what we should do is we should use the title of the new product idea in here. Now, this is where I will show you how we can bring data from the previous node actually into this node. And so this is how we transfer data between nodes. The beautiful thing about N8N is it's all drag and drop. So if I want to include in the subject line something from this data, I can just pick it and drop it in here. So I think the most appropriate thing is to drag in the title of the product idea that we want to email to all the managers. So we'll just grab this, bring it, and there you go. It brings it in as a parameter, the JSON. And so now the email is going to say new product idea, and it's going to have the title of the product idea. So it will come out saying new product idea, the AI tracksuit 2026. So that's that. And now for the message, here's one I made earlier. So here we go. So this is a idea for the product message that I came up with earlier, and I've just pasted it in. So it says, hello team, a new product idea has been submitted. Please review the details below and begin your respective workflows. So I'm going to update this slightly to say, begin creating the proof of concept for the product. And so the idea details are the title is, we'll fill all of these in, if I zoom out slightly, by dragging in the correct piece of data here. But before I do that, I'll just complete going through the email. So it says submitted by your name. Instead of bringing that in as a piece of information, I'm going to hard code that. So let's say all ideas go through the managing director. And so please take appropriate next steps in your area. Product manager, refine design concepts. Project manager, create project plan and assign tasks. Operations manager, review sourcing material requirements. Marketing manager, plan campaign assets. Customer experience manager, note potential FAQs. Finance manager, estimate costs and forecast impact. Sales manager, prepare sales tracking and reporting. Thank you. Okay, so that's our email. So all that's missing is all of the information about the idea. And as usual, we can drag that in. So let's drag in each one of these bits of information. And we're going to replace what's in the square brackets with each bit of information from the left. Pretty straightforward. I usually find it quicker to delete them all and then drag them all in after I've deleted them. There you go. So now we have dragged in all of the information that we need. Now it says attachments here, but attachments are treated differently. Because the attachment is not going to be in JSON, it's going to be a binary. We treat that differently. So I'm going to remove this, and that will be auto saved in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a field for attachments. So add a field, attachments. And the way we add it is we click add attachment and we need a data field name. So the data field name is going to be the same as the name here, because that's the name given to this binary that contains our attachments. So all we need to do is literally put in here attachments, and that's that. And that's it. That's our complete message. So if we go and we click execute step, looks like I have a little problem in my to field. Let's have a look. It looks like this semicolon didn't like. Let's try again. It says node executed successfully, and that is a good sign. So if that's worked, I should have an email in my inbox that looks something like this, that took all of the information from my form and sent that to me in an email with an attachment of the idea, the product idea for the Passion Sports tracksuit. So let's go over to my Outlook account and have a look. So here we are in my Outlook account. It's been sent to product Passion Consulting. So let's have a look. And there we go. Here's our email. We've got the attachment here. It says, hello team, a new product idea has been submitted. Please review the details below and begin creating the proof of concept for the product. Idea details, title, the AI tracksuit 2026, description, a tracksuit developed using generative AI and the recommendations we collected from our loyal customers. The category is tracksuit, target audience consumer, priority high, keynotes and requirements. The tracksuit should be based on audience research, on brand. Submitted by Paul Ashen, Managing Director. Please take the appropriate next steps in your area. And it's got all of my different managers there. Thank you from myself. One thing I seem to have added the name of the product again. So let's go back and change that. But apart from that, I'm really happy that we've got our email through. So there you go. That's the issue right there. So if we get rid of that, we're good to go. So there you have it. That's our first workflow. So why does this workflow matter? Well, it may look like a very simple workflow, but it demonstrates something critical. One trigger can get multiple people in your company aligned around one message that's really important. And that means you can do that with 0 meetings, 0 manual follow-ups, and clear ownership of who needs to do what by their role. And this is a foundational automation, one that we're going to layer AI agents on top of later in this training. So now it's your turn. Pick a repetitive challenge in your career or business or project, and one that needs an email sent out to multiple people, and create a workflow inspired by what you've seen. So examples for inspiration are, if you're a founder, you can go from new idea to notifying leadership, as I've shown. If you're a project manager, you can go from a new request to assigning tasks via email or sending people a number of tasks via email. If you're a marketing manager, you can go from a campaign brief to a team email, notifying them about that campaign brief. If you're an operations manager, you can go from a supplier issue to alerting stakeholders. HR people or ops, you can go from a new hire to an onboarding email. And a freelancer, you can go from client intake to project kickoff with an email that kicks off the project. So remember to build a simple workflow, something that starts with a form or a trigger that sends a structured, actionable message and eliminates all of the back and forth. And once you can automate communication like this, you'll start seeing automation opportunities everywhere. And we've got much more to show you, but this is a really simple example of the power of an automation. So see you in the next lesson.